Here with an update on these states and what's going on. Kayleigh McEnany is with us. All right, let's do our whip. We just heard from Senator Cruz, Pennsylvania. We talk about Wisconsin. We talk about Nevada. We talk about Georgia. I watched the legal side of those cases. Can you update us? Let's go around the countries. Let's start in Pennsylvania.
Sure. Pennsylvania, the Mike Kelly lawsuit, the one that Senator Ted Cruz, and I commend him for all he's doing in that case. What is key in that case is this. When that intermediary judge, the Commonwealth judge, said, I think you're going to win on the merits here, because as you both just laid out, it's very clear that we would win on the merits there, that Mike Kelly would. The moment that happened, she said, 48 hours from now, I want you to present your evidence. What happened, and what this lawsuit calls an extraordinary move, the Supreme Court, which we know is 5-2 Democrat, pulled the case up and said, no, don't show the evidence. We have this doctrine called latches, and you brought this case too late, and stopped it. So what Senator Cruz is asking for is important, to go to the Supreme Court. And we know in Bush v. Gore, Justice Rehnquist said, when there's such a flagrant departure from what the legislature has laid out, there is a federal question there. So the Supreme Court should hear this. Senator Ted Cruz is right, and we will see what Justice Alito does.
And Reince Priebus, I thought, laid out the good legal side with court precedent in Wisconsin.
That's exactly right. I have the Wisconsin case here. You've hit on what I think are the two most legally sound cases out there, because Wisconsin, too, their Constitution very clearly lays out how absentee voting should be, because they believe it is susceptible to fraud and it needs to be tightly regulated. But instead, you had individuals saying, I'm indefinitely confined because of fear of COVID, no ID checks, nothing, thrown out the window, a mass influx of mail-in ballots with no ID checks. It's legally sound. And one note here, Sean, just to move on here to Nevada for a second, a trend we're seeing is don't let them see the evidence, because tonight what I've learned is in Nevada, we've appealed to the Supreme Court. You have a justice on the Supreme Court who's had to recuse herself for an affiliation with one of the Joe Biden electors. And you have the Perkins Coie attack dog leftist lawyers saying, we don't want evidence presented. Dismiss this summarily out of hand. That is the trend. We don't want to look at the evidence. Be quiet, lay down, go home. Nothing to see here. That's what we're seeing in courts across the country.
All right. And in the state of Georgia, I mean, we know about this consent agreement. For the life of me, and I think the crowd in Valdosta was very clear, fight for Trump. You know, the governor does have the authority to call the legislature back into session. And especially in light of these two important Senate runoff seats coming up on January 5th, less than a month away. In-person voting starts the 14th next week.
That's exactly right. And let me tell you something that they're trying to do. They're trying to confuse the viewers here. And here's why. Governor Kemp is saying, I'm not calling a special legislative session to overturn the election. That's not what is being asked of him. We are saying call a special legislative session to allow for signature match in this election and in the next one. But they're trying to deceive voters by conflating the two. But be very clear. Call a special legislative session to fix signature match for the election to come on January 5th and for the one that just happened. It is a very specific demand, and one they are trying to confuse voters as to exactly what they're asking for.
It's very simple. One standard for mail-in and one standard for in-person voting should be the same standard. Photo ID, signature verification, every voter's signature is on file, run it through the same thing. The other thing is we need to maintain the chain of the ballots in terms of accountability. Right. And you can't have drop boxes that are not monitored. That's insane, too. But Kayleigh?
And Sean, let me just say one thing. Governor Kemp is no different than Stacey Abrams right now. She did this consent decree, and by not doing this, Governor Kemp is Stacey Abrams, and that is despicable.
Yeah, chain of custody. All right, thank you.